We know he wasn't really running the country.
Knowing what you know now, do you wish like you had a third term? You know what, if I could make an arrangement where I had a stand-in, a front man or front woman, and they had an earpiece in, and I was just in my basement in my sweats looking through the stuff, and then I could sort of deliver the lines, but somebody else was doing all the talking and ceremony, I'd be fine with that.
We used to think he was actually running the country, and now they're like, no, he didn't even see those executive orders. That was all auto-penned.
It's the art of deflection coming from former President Obama, as well as his friends who are still in Congress today, and Senator Warner and Congressman Jim Himes, really all basically saying that exact same statement, which doesn't actually address the issue that was revealed in great detail in the over 100 documents that we released last week, in the documents that we will be releasing later this week, that point to the undeniable fact that you laid out in your introduction to this segment, is that the intelligence community had one assessment, that Russia did not have the intent or capability to try to impact the outcome of the U.S. election leading up to Election Day.
He wasn't just a president. He was a cultural moment, a global phenomenon. Barack Obama ascended to power on a wave of euphoria so powerful, it felt like a prophecy being fulfilled. He was presented as the healer of a fractured nation, the cool-headed intellectual who could bridge any divide with a perfectly delivered speech. The world press treated him less like a politician and more like a secular savior, a man whose charisma alone could erase the sins of the past. His image was meticulously crafted, flawless in its presentation of hope, intelligence, and grace. But this picture-perfect narrative, so eagerly consumed by millions, was an illusion. And beneath the polished surface, a far more troubling reality was taking shape.
Ever seen it?
No.
He gets a glass of Flint tap water, and I swear to God, he drinks it like this. Blushes.
Can I get some water? I really did need a glass of water. This is not a stunt.
Usually when something isn't a stunt, you have to say
It's
that.
100% a stunt. When was the last time a president stopped a speech to ask, can I get a glass of water? They would never do that. They would have water ready for him.
Revealing it should have stopped the presses. When asked if he wished for a third term, Obama laughed and painted a picture of his ideal scenario, a front man or front woman on stage wearing an earpiece while he ran the country from his basement in sweats. It was dismissed as a joke, but it was a chilling Freudian slip. This wasn't just an off-the-cuff remark, it was a glimpse behind the curtain, revealing a profound detachment from the very office he held. The idea of a puppet president, a stand-in delivering his lines, confirmed a gnawing suspicion that the man we saw was merely a performer, and the real power was being wielded from a place of comfortable, insulated distance.
A lot of what they campaigned on, they don't practice at all. Great example is the Obama administration. The Hope and Change website had to be changed because there was a bunch of stuff in there about whistleblowers.
No, I don't think Mr. Snowden was a patriot. I called for a thorough review of our surveillance operations before Mr. Snowden made these leaks. My preference would have been for a lawful, orderly examination of these laws.
Protecting whistleblowers, which they didn't do at all. There was one of the worst administrations for whistleblowers.
I first joined the Democratic Party over 20 years ago. I was 21 years old, and what I saw back then was a party that still stood for free speech. That was a big open tent party that welcomed people with different ideas, different backgrounds, different religions, that stood up for civil liberties, that fought for everyday Americans. It was a party of the little guy. Fast forward to where we are today, that party is completely unrecognizable.
The first major test of his Hope and Change platform wasn't for the people, but for the powerful. As the 2008 financial crisis raged, Main Street was collapsing, with families losing their homes and life savings. The nation looked to their new leader to hold the architects of this disaster accountable. Instead, Obama's administration continued the Wall Street bailout, injecting trillions of taxpayer dollars into the very banks that had gambled away the economy. The message was sent loud and clear. The titans of finance were too big to fail, but the American people were not. The crusader for the common man had become the protector of the elite.
I left the Democratic Party because it is led by an elitist cabal of woke warmongers. They are driven by an insatiable greed for power, and they are willing to do whatever they deem is necessary, even the destruction of our freedom, to get what they want and to stay in power. This is the challenge and the threat.
While Wall Street executives collected bonuses with bailout money, not a single high-level banker was prosecuted for the systemic fraud that led to the crisis. Obama's administration chose not to rock the boat, opting to stabilize the system rather than reform it. This decision cemented a two-tiered system of justice in America, one for the well-connected elite who could crash the global economy with impunity, and another for ordinary citizens facing foreclosure and ruin. The man who spoke so eloquently about shared sacrifice was presiding over a reality where the sacrifices were only made by the powerless. The betrayal was staggering, but it was just the beginning.
Watch Tulsi Gabbard explain what most Americans are thinking.
Vast majority of the Democrat elite in Washington, in politics and the media, still can't figure out why President Trump has the support that he has, and that no matter what they're throwing at him, it continues to grow, which just is a reflection of how completely out of touch they are with the people. They continue, as they did in 2016, they continue to see the American people as stupid. And
the most transparent administration in history. It was a bold and beautiful promise, repeated endlessly on the campaign trail. Obama pledged to throw open the doors of government, to let sunlight be the ultimate disinfectant, and to protect the brave whistleblowers who dared to expose corruption and waste. He spoke of a new era of openness where the public would finally be able to see the inner workings of their government. It was a core pillar of his brand, a solemn vow that convinced millions he was different from the cynical politicians of the past. This promise, however, would soon become his most profound and hypocritical.
I think the best people age the hardest. I think Obama was probably like a very idealistic young man
Oh, Lord, what's going on now? Who's hollering? I can't even see it.
who really wanted to change the world. And that dude aged more than anybody.
I mean, I'm getting old, so I can't hear that well. I can't see that good.
Who aged the least? Trump. Trump just
This is something that
he just brushed that shit off his shoulders like it was nothing.
Behind the rhetoric of transparency, a silent, brutal war was being waged against anyone who dared to leak the truth. Obama's Department of Justice weaponized the Espionage Act, a draconian law designed for spies, and used it to prosecute more whistleblowers than all previous administrations combined. People like Edward Snowden and Chelsea Manning, who exposed vast government secrets and war crimes, were not celebrated as heroes. They were branded as traitors, hunted, and subjected to treatment that shocked civil liberties advocates around the world. The promised sunlight had been replaced by the shadow of retribution.
There is irrefutable evidence that detail how President Obama and his national security team directed the creation of an intelligence community assessment that they knew was false. They knew it would promote this contrived narrative that Russia interfered in the 2016 election to help President Trump win, selling it to the American people as though
the secrets Snowden exposed were more terrifying than anyone had imagined. Under Obama's watch, the National Security Agency, NSA, had built a surveillance apparatus of truly Orwellian scale. The program, known as PRISM, was secretly collecting the phone records, emails, and internet activity of millions of Americans without a warrant. The administration that promised to protect civil liberties was presiding over the most invasive domestic spying program in the nation's history. Every citizen was now a potential suspect. The very government that was supposed to protect freedom was systematically dismantling the right to privacy, one secret court order at a time.
Remember when they gave that speech, when he gave a speech on television, and everybody was like, this. And then they it kind of just went away.
It was one of the most beautiful moments in modern American history. People really actually stood up and stopped a war from happening.
In 2009, in a move that baffled the world, Barack Obama was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize. He had been president for less than a year. Even he seemed embarrassed, admitting he was only at the beginning of his work. The award was given not for what he had done, but for the hope he inspired. That hope would soon collide with a brutal reality. The world's newest peace laureate was about to embark on a course of action that would make him one of the most prolific war makers of the modern era, all conducted from a safe, sterile distance.
Obama said he was a jackass.
The young lady seems like a perfectly nice person. She's getting her award. What's he doing up there? He's a jack.
It's like, oh, really? Well, you.
It was about the Taylor Swift thing.
Now, all this stuff.
That guy's a jack. It wasn't even
Yeah.
that harsh of an incident. And he said it privately, and I think somebody heard it. I don't think he said it to be public.
I'm assuming all this stuff. Where's the pool? Come on, guys.
The Obama administration vastly expanded America's drone program, transforming it into the primary tool of its foreign policy. He institutionalized Terror Tuesdays, weekly meetings where he would personally review a kill list and authorize drone strikes across the Middle East and Africa. This was a new kind of warfare, fought via video screen, where the president became judge, jury, and executioner. The strikes, often based on flawed intelligence, resulted in the deaths of thousands of people, many of whom were innocent civilians. The grim irony was lost on no one. The Nobel Peace Prize winner was now personally directing a remote-controlled assassination program.
These terrible things that are happening in our country are happening because we have people in power who care more about themselves and their power than they do about the people, this country, our constitution, our democracy. They are setting this incredibly dangerous precedent that now, much like many banana republics in the world, whoever's in power has the ability to politicize and weaponize that power to go after their political opponent. Take away whatever people think about Trump or whatever.
Right.
The consequences and implications of what is actually happening and what so many of the Democrat elite are justifying in the name of protecting democracy is actually destroying it.
No single event showcased the disastrous consequences of his foreign policy more than the 2011 intervention in Libya. Against the advice of his own defense secretary, Obama led a NATO-backed campaign to overthrow Muammar Gaddafi. The mission was sold as a humanitarian intervention to protect civilians. The result was a catastrophe. With Gaddafi gone, Libya collapsed into a failed state, a chaotic wasteland ruled by rival militias and extremists. It became a hub for the arms trade and, most horrifically, a center for open-air slave markets where human beings were bought and sold. The intervention, meant to save lives, created a hell on earth.
The witch hunt that you should be talking about is they caught President Obama absolutely cold. Tulsi Gabbard. Barack Hussein Obama, have you heard of him? And except for the fact that he gets shielded by the press for his entire life, that's the one they... Look, he's guilty. It's not a question, I like to say, let's give it time. It's there, he's guilty. This was treason. This was every word you can think of.
The Affordable Care Act, or Obamacare, was billed as his signature domestic achievement, a historic step toward universal health care. It was sold with the promise that if you liked your plan, you could keep it, and that families would save thousands a year. For millions, those promises turned to dust. Premiums and deductibles soared, making insurance unaffordable for the very people it was meant to help. Networks shrank, forcing patients to find new doctors. The sleek, modern solution turned into a bureaucratic nightmare, a complex web of mandates and subsidies that felt more like a trap than a safety net.
Obama went on stage and he roasted Trump.
Donald Trump is here tonight.
And one of the lines he said to Trump, he said, "I'm one thing that you'll never be," which is the president of the United States.
Donald Trump has been saying that he will run for president as a Republican, which is surprising since I just assumed he was running as a joke.
And you could see Trump in his head going, okay, I'm going to run now. That one moment where Obama was talking shit to him might be the reason why Trump was like, I'll show you.
As the nation's first black president, many hoped Obama could lead a genuine conversation on race and heal deep-seated wounds. But when racial tensions flared in places like Ferguson and Baltimore, he consistently chose the path of the eloquent observer rather than the decisive leader. He gave masterful speeches that soothed and inspired in the moment, but they were rarely followed by the sweeping, systemic reforms needed to address police brutality or racial inequality. He offered the nation poetry and playlists when it was crying out for policy and action. He acted as the nation's commentator-in-chief, leaving the underlying problems to fester. For a man who so often spoke out against the corrosive effects of money and politics and the widening gap between the rich and poor, his post-presidency has been an exercise in epic hypocrisy. The Obamas have amassed a fortune estimated in the tens of millions through multi-million-dollar Netflix deals, lucrative book contracts, and six-figure speaking fees from the same Wall Street firms he once claimed to hold in check. This wealth has funded a lavish lifestyle, including the purchase of a $12 million beachfront mansion in Martha's Vineyard, a property whose very existence seems to mock his dire warnings about rising sea levels and climate change. He was telling the world to tighten its belt from a palace built on influence. It was a night of glitz and glamour at the 2011 White House Correspondents' Dinner, and Obama was at the peak of his powers. His target that evening was a reality TV star with loud political ambitions, Donald Trump. For several minutes, Obama mercilessly mocked Trump, portraying him as a ridiculous, unqualified joke. The room of journalists and DC insiders roared with laughter, but Trump sat stone-faced, absorbing the public humiliation. Many believe that in that moment, something shifted. The casual desire for power hardened into a vengeful obsession. Obama, the master of cool, may have inadvertently created his own political nemesis, unleashing a force he could never have predicted.